This has got to be one of my new favourite desserts. It's a raspberry and pistachio millefeuille elevated with a lattice top. And this is the latest recipe on my online classes. We start with a quick rough puff pastry that we layer with raspberry and pistachio crema. A little raspberry coulis. It's delicious and it's elegant. Now the whole point of this recipe is to learn all about rough puff pastry. So usually you would make a dough, you would laminate it with butter, but with rough puff, you just throw everything into the bowl. So I've got my flour, my salt, my water and vinegar, very important, to relax the gluten, and then cold butter. You can, by all means, mix this with your hands. We're just going to mix it on a very low speed until it pulls together into a dough. Once that dough comes out of the mixer, there's going to be big chunks of butter in it. That's absolutely fine. That is what you want. I'm going to start to laminate or layer this dough. So we take it out, we're going to roll it into a rough rectangle. Don't worry too much about the width or the length of it. Just get it relatively thin. Then we're going to perform a single fold. This is where we fold 1/3 of the dough up and another third over the top. Then we're going to turn the dough again, but this time we're going to roll it out and perform a double fold, also known as a book fold, okay? These are just different types of layering for the puff pastry, and then we can chill the dough. We're going to do a total of 1 single fold, 3 double folds, and then 1 more single fold. And as you're working through the dough, right, you'll see that butter kind of start to dissolve. So after the first few turns, you'll still see streaks of butter, but as you get to kind of turn 5 and 6, then the butter should have disappeared. While the dough chills, we're going to make this base crema recipe, which we're going to flavour with pistachio and raspberry. So we add egg yolks, sugar, and cream to a pan. And we're going to whisk that constantly until it reaches 82 degrees Celsius on a digital thermometer. Then we're going to pass it through a sieve over some gelatin. And all we're going to do now is split this crema evenly between the pistachio and the raspberry. Blend them together to combine, then we just cover them and we're going to chill them overnight. Once you've finished all your turns, you're going to roll it out one more time. It's kind of a rough rectangular shape. You're going to split that into 2/3 and 1/3. On the 1/3 piece, we're going to use this. This is a lattice cutter. Right now, you can use one of those lattice pastry wheels you use for like beef Wellington. This is just another version, and we're going to stamp this down onto that chilled dough, okay, and peel off the lovely lattice design. The pastry's chilled again now. What we're going to do is we're going to bake it. So I've got it on a tray. I'm going to put second silicone mat on top, and then we're going to weigh it down. So I've got some really heavy trays here. We're going to place that on top of the pastry and bake it for an hour. This is going to keep the pastry really nice and thin. After about 60 minutes, we're going to have a nice light golden colour to our pastry. Now we need to liberally dust this with icing sugar all over. We're going to caramelize it in the oven until it's a deep golden colour. Our pastry is cooked and now it's time to pipe in our filling. So we've got the pistachio crema and the raspberry crema. What we're going to do is pipe alternate lines of the pistachio, then the raspberry. We're going to fill in the little gaps, the little bit of raspberry coulis, and then we're going to stack the whole thing on top and finish it with just a touch of icing sugar. I mean, if I do say so myself, a pretty good looking millefeuille. Now that lattice on top, it just gives it a touch of elegance, and raspberry and pistachio, you know that flavour combination is going to taste good. Now, if you want this recipe, it's part of my online baking classes, Baker Better. Click that link in my bio to sign up and join. It does cost $5.99 a month, right? Which is like the price of a pumpkin spice latte. But for that, you're going to improve your baking skills, get access to over 110 recipe videos with PDFs, the equipment list. You can join our Facebook group, and they're full-length recipe videos. Okay? Smooth ganache and a chocolate drip. Okay, so this ganache is going to add a lovely, deep, chocolatey flavour to the outside of a cake. So we've got melted dark chocolate in a pan. We've got sugar, butter, glucose. You could use honey, that's absolutely fine. Over the top of that, we're going to pour our cream. Put that onto a medium heat. We're going to stir it until it's steamy and our butter has melted. Take that mixture off the heat and stirring in small circles, you're going to pour that cream into the center of the chocolate. Now you're going to look at this and say, Matthew, this has gone wrong. It's completely split. Okay, it's going to split. That's absolutely fine. Let me show you how to save it. Here is your saver. So you're going to add sour cream on top, and then you're going to use a hand blender. This is the secret, right? This emulsifies everything and makes a smooth ganache. You'll end up with this really lusciously smooth ganache, and what we're going to do is pour it into a big baking tray like this and just cover it. Leave it at room temperature for a few hours. Do not touch it, all right? You want it to reach the consistency of buttercream. That ganache is looking smooth and lovely, and what we've got here is the cake that we made yesterday. It's filled, it's chilled, and it's time to add that ganache around the outside, okay? Around the outside, and the outside. You know the reference, guys, okay? So just spread a thin layer, use your palette knife and your bench scraper, and then we'll get this into the fridge to chill. The ganache will be firm to the touch when it comes out the fridge, and then you're going to add one more really rough layer around the outside. That's just going to help kind of neaten things up ever so slightly, because we then go in with our comb scraper. Now this one's a little bit small. You want one a bit taller than this, but you're going to heat this, okay, just under a warm tap, dry it off, and then you're going to do 1 or 2 passes around the outside of the cake. You don't want to do this loads of times. You're just going to end up kind of damaging the ganache. So just have 1 or 2 good goes at it. As long as you've got a nice front of the cake, that's enough. I had a few goes at it. You can see I've got a nice edge here. Don't worry about the top. We can smooth this bit off. Don't worry about the bottom, because we're going to cover this with nice chocolate curls. So I'm going to work with that as the front edge of my cake. We're going to chill that cake one more time, and then we're going to get on with the drip, which couldn't be easier. We're just going to melt together chocolate and butter until it's nice and smooth, then set it to one side to cool to about 40 degrees Celsius. Once that drip is at temperature, you're going to work very quickly here, and you're going to pour it into the center of the cake, and you're going to spin the cake, spreading it to the edges with a palette knife. Now, if you want to be more accurate, you can actually just drip this over the edge with a piping bag, but just use a palette knife to push it over the edge so it rustically drips down. Once it has set, you're going to finish the cake with a few chocolate curls, and then you're ready to dive in. You want to make sure you serve this at room temperature. If it's not room temperature, okay, you're just not going to enjoy the cake, and get yourself a big fat slice. Okay, let's jump into the slices. Look, we've got a big slice. The crema, the French buttercream, the soft chocolate sponge. Right, now you might say, Matt, my granny, she got the best chocolate cake. I'm not going to twist your arm to make the cake, but I'll go toe-to-toe with granny, right? I don't think she's got crema in her chocolate cake. Now you've got to try this, guys. The full recipe is on my website. Click the link in my bio. I think it is the ultimate chocolate cake.